Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. Alright, so I'm wearing the Explorer 2, and M. Kwan apparently is thinking about getting this watch. He left a comment on one of my videos like 30 minutes ago talking about the 16570 and how he thinks it may become a bit of a collector's item. And let me just first say that I wouldn't be surprised about that. I think there are a lot of Explorer 2s out there, and I think that's one reason why it may not be the next GMT 2, or, the next red sub, right? Okay, that's not going to happen, but I think the quantity of watches out there is going to stop it from going up in price for the next 10 years. But once pieces start breaking and dying off and getting lost and getting aftermarket parts, in a couple decades, I can see in Explorer 2, the 40mm, becoming kind of a sought-after watch. It's really unique, and so that's why I want to talk about it today. One other reason why it might become a collector's item is because of the 42mm disaster, which a lot of people like, but I don't. And the thing is, you never know what's going to become sort of the next hot vintage item. I mean, it's oftentimes the unpopular black sheep of the Rolex lines, like the Milgauss, or the original Explorer 2, meaning the I believe it's the 1660. People don't buy it, and then all of a sudden, it becomes sort of a collector's item. So the fact that people don't seem to like this so much, and that it's going for a low price now, well, I mean, I guess there's two ways to look at it. That it's an unpopular watch, but again, I think the quantity out there is gonna it's gonna take a while for it to go up. It's hot in here because I have to cut off the AC when I make these videos, otherwise you get this hum. Anyway, as far as like 1660s and 16550s, oh yeah, I mean they're already going up there. The cream dials, those are already collectible. The 16570, again, I just think we're at a time where the whole phenomenon of like red subs and Paul Newman Daytonas, the rarity and them going up. I think really we're really past that. So anyway, I've talked about that a little too much, but yeah, it's interesting, the idea that this could become sort of a sought after watch, while it's at the moment it's sort of a black sheep that is white, but the black one as well. All right, well, let me talk about what I like about this watch. Okay, when I got the GMT Master 2, the second I cracked the crown, the second I started setting it and winding it, I realized that it was an Explorer 2, or I guess I realized that an Explorer 2 was a GMT Master 2. I don't know. They're the same watch. They're the same watch. Everything's the same except for the bezel and the face. The movement's the same. All right, I'm talking about, for example, the 16710 and the 16570. Okay, those two are identical for the most part. There might be some, later on they put a parachrome spring in some of these, but for the most part, they're identical watches except for two things, and that's the face and the bezel. And so really, that's one of the reasons I love this watch, because I mean it's a GMT Master 2. It really is, and it does all the same things. You can't move the bezel, but we'll get to that. and it's so much less expensive. I mean, it really is a deal and a half. All right, well, let's talk about the white face. The white dial is so cool. It's a sports watch, and it's got a white dial. That is so unique, and it's something that I really appreciate. Okay, the black dialed version of the Explorer 2 is still cool, but the white is just, it's beautiful. It's very sort of light and, I don't want to say airy, but a lot of these black dialed watches look sort of overtly manly, right? But this is just such a nice change from that. And I really appreciate it. I really like it. And it looks cool with a white shirt, and it looks a little bit dressy. Some people say it looks effeminate. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's your opinion, or some people's opinion. I can't say that I agree. I can't say that I agree that it does look feminine. I mean, I guess I look at the total package and, the shape and the oyster bracelet and the bezel. I don't think this is a girly looking watch at all. And look, I don't think people really say it's a girly looking watch, but the white color, um, the idea that it's effeminate looking doesn't faze me one bit. I absolutely love the color of this. Um, let's talk about the bezel now. Now on the GMT Master 2, you have the movable bezel, right? The idea is that you set the 24-hour hand to GMT mean time. You set your regular hour hand to your home time, and then you use the bezel, you know, if you're a pilot, to, tweak the time zone of where you happen to be, at a layover or, for a couple days between flights. It makes total sense, and it's a cool idea if you hit a couple time zones in a week. I mean, if you're flying into this time zone and that time zone, and every time you do, you have to undo the crown and you have to get into the crown. Pain in the ass. Definitely, I'd say GMT Master 2. But most of us, that's not the case. I mean, when I travel, I'm in a different country for about a week, and undoing this and tweaking, it's really easy. So, I don't need to change time zones, a couple times a day. But if you did, I'd have to say you'd want to go with the GMT Master 2 or the GMT, definitely. But I'm not a pilot, so that's not a big deal. Now, this watch it was actually marketed as a spelunking watch, okay, which is kind of crazy. And it's interesting because the original incarnation of this, the 1660, you couldn't separate the 24-hour hand and the hour hand, okay? And of course it doesn't have a movable bezel, it's a fixed bezel. So it really was just so you were in a cave for a couple days, so you would know whether it's PM or AM, which is really, really redundant, okay? Of course now they have, the separation, so I can unwind this and I can click it over to the first position, and I can just just move that local time hand, not the 24-hour hand, the local time hand, to where it needs to be, right? And having that separation of it makes it a two time zone watch. And it's interesting to me that the first incarnation of the Explorer 2, the ones that are selling for like $14,000, it's going to give you one time zone. It's just going to tell you with a 24-hour hand whether it's PM or AM, because you can't separate those two hands. Very interesting, I think. So when I found that out, I was especially appreciative of, this version. As cool as those are, those old vintage 1660s are so cool looking, but the functional trade-off there is way too great, and considering the price, I mean, totally, I think this is the way to go. Although I tell you, man, I mean, seeing one of those old watches, you know would be a kick to see somebody wear them. I mean, they're really special. But okay, so the GMT Master 2 is going to give you, the option, right, to change how you read the 24-hour hand. But there's a bad point or a negative to, the movement there. Okay, first of all, it's fiddly, and if you've seen my older videos, you know that I had problems having Rolex line up, the bezel, so it lined up, correctly to the 24-hour marker. Pain in the ass, right? Don't have to worry about that with this. If you're a bit OCD, you want those bezels to always line up perfectly, right? You don't have to worry about that with this. It just stays put, okay? This is steel, okay? That's aluminum. This is tough. You're not going to get any grime under this. I mean, this is made for spelunking, going into the earth with. This is the toughest Rolex, probably, right? Oh, and of course, like the, deep sea, and, those are quite tough. But that, that bezel with a movement, I mean, there's a lot of potential for getting grime and grit underneath, the aluminum's going to scratch a little bit more. If you told me that I had to take one of my watches and I had to go outside and dig a hole, pour water in it, and then twist one of my watches into the earth, I had to choose which one, it would definitely be this one, okay? It just could handle it more, okay? The bezel on the GMT Master 2 is just more fragile than this, okay? You could get, things under it. The bezel could pop off. I guess it's possible for the bezel of this to pop off, but I mean, this thing is just rock solid. So as far as toughness goes, this has a leg up on the GMT Master 2, okay? And that's a big reason. Now, let's talk about the last thing. Why this is such a cool watch. And it's because there's really no preconceived notions about this watch. I mean, nobody looks at me and says, that's a spelunking watch. You're not a spelunker, right? But, you may get that if you have a sub or a GMT Master 2. I mean, if you're not a pilot, do you look like a poser? There's no preconceived notions with this. I feel like, this watch is cool, but I don't have to keep up with the coolness of this watch like I do with a sub. I mean, a sub is a diving watch, and I mean, should anybody have a sub if they don't have a, a scuba diving license? What if they've never been scuba diving? What if they just wear their sub to the office and do desk diving? In a way, a sub is so ultra cool that it can almost make its wearer look uncool, right? I'll get back to this. I have kind of an interesting, anecdote. And the same thing with the GMT, especially the GMT. I mean, it's a pilot's watch. I mean, if you're not a pilot, there's an element of posing there, in a way. Not with this. Not with this. I mean, it's called the Explorer, and for ages before I knew it was a spelunking watch, I thought it was more for the traveler. And I think we can all identify with this sort of, the traveler much more than the professional diver or the pilot, And that's why I love this watch. There's no sort of, baggage that comes like with the Sub or with the GMT Master 2, right? And so that's a big reason why I like this watch. Now, this anecdote that I wanted to talk to you guys about, I was on the train and there was a guy standing in front of me, and he wasn't particularly cool looking, right? I'm not either, okay? I'm not, um, I'm in a glass house as well, but I was looking at him very objectively, and he was wearing a pretty badly cut suit. He was a little bit fat. He had glasses on. Glass house here, I know, right? And he just looked like an unconfident, sort of boring businessman. And he had a Sub. He had a date Sub on. And the Sub made him look kind of uncool. Because I could imagine him going into the Rolex dealer, hearing about the Sub, and thinking, this Sub is going to change me, it's going to make me a different person, it's tough, and it's going to bring me up. And in a way, it just sort of highlighted how average and uncool he was, in a way. I think, I know this sounds kind of nasty, but the Sub was too cool for him. And maybe the Sub is too cool for me. And I'm pretty damn sure that the GMT Master 2 is too cool for me. But this, I think I might be able to pull this one off. That's why I like it. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time.